Melissa hummed softly as she poured coffee into 2 mugs, the morning light casting a warm glow in the cozy kitchen. Ethan, her husband, was busy scrolling through emails, but he looked up, smiling at her. "Thanks, love," he said, taking the mug she offered. He looked distracted, his mind already on the business trip he was about to embark on. Melissa sat across from him, her eyes tracing the familiar lines of his face. "You sure you can't skip this trip?" she asked half-jokingly, already knowing the answer. Ethan reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "I wish I could, Mel, but this is a big opportunity for the company. I'll be back before you know it." They chatted about mundane things, the neighbors, Melissa's book club, and plans for when Ethan returned. It was a typical morning filled with laughter and the comfort of routine. After breakfast, Melissa drove Ethan to the airport. They shared a long embrace, the kind that said everything without words. "Take care of yourself," she whispered. "I always do," Ethan replied. Melissa's world came to a sudden, crashing halt the next day. She was in the middle of a novel when her phone rang, the screen displaying an unknown number. With a sense of foreboding, she answered. "Mrs. Johnson." The voice was unfamiliar, formal. "I'm calling from the U.S. Embassy in Paris. I'm so sorry to inform you that there's been an accident. Your husband, Ethan Johnson, was involved and he didn't survive." The phone slipped from Melissa's hand, clattering against the hardwood floor. Her mind couldn't process the words. Ethan, her Ethan, gone? It felt like a cruel joke, a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. Tears blurred her vision as a deep, inconsolable sorrow enveloped her. Everything vanished instantly from the life they had planned and the dreams they shared. Melissa was left void of disbelief and heartache, a world without Ethan. In the wake of Ethan's tragic death, Melissa found herself navigating a world that seemed to have lost its color and warmth. The days blended into each other, each as gray and indistinct as the last. She drifted through them like a ghost, her heart a hollow echo of its former self. The first blow came when she discovered their financial instability. Ethan, always so confident and in control, had hidden their precarious financial situation. Debt collectors began calling, each more persistent and unsympathetic than the last. Melissa, already reeling from her loss, found herself drowning in a sea of unpaid bills and mounting debts. In her desperation, Melissa became an easy target for scammers. She received a call one day from someone claiming they could help with her financial troubles. The voice was kind and understanding and promised a way out. In her vulnerable state, Melissa clung to this lifeline. She invested her remaining savings into what she believed was a surefire investment scheme, only to watch it crumble into nothing. It was a scam, and with it went the last of her financial security. The reality of her situation hit hard. Melissa was broke, alone, and lost. It was then that her friend Janet stepped in. Janet had been her rock throughout the ordeal, offering support and a shoulder to cry on. Now, she offered something else, a chance at a new beginning. Janet owned a small restaurant in a bustling city 2 hours away and needed help. She offered Melissa a job and a place to stay. With nothing left for her in Oakwood, Melissa accepted. She packed her life into a few boxes and set out for a new city, job, and, hopefully, a new start. The restaurant, Janet's Corner, was a quaint, cozy place with a warm atmosphere. Melissa started as a waitress, and her days are now filled with taking orders, serving food, and making small talk with customers. It was hard work, and the hours were long, but it kept her mind occupied. Melissa found solace in the hustle and bustle of the restaurant. The regular customers, the clink of dishes, and the smell of fresh coffee became her new regular. However, it wasn't easy. There were nights when the weight of her loss and her betrayal crept up on her. She would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, Ethan's face haunting her thoughts. The pain of his deception, the shock of his betrayal, still stung. She was surviving, rebuilding her life piece by piece. Melissa also discovered a passion for cooking. She started helping in the kitchen, learning recipes and experimenting with flavors. Cooking became her therapy, a way to express herself and create something beautiful from simple ingredients. Her specialty dish, a hearty stew, became a customer favorite. Months turned into a year, and Melissa slowly transformed. No longer just a waitress or a grieving widow, she was a crucial part of Janet's Corner, a friend to many, and a cook with a growing reputation. She had found a new identity in this city that was entirely her own. Melissa's journey was far from easy, but it was hers. She faced loss, betrayal, and financial ruin, yet emerged more robust and resilient. Melissa had found a new purpose within these walls, but fate, with its unpredictable twists, was about to shake the foundation of her newfound peace. It was a typical busy evening, with the clatter of dishes and the hum of conversation filling the air. Melissa, her apron dusted with flour, was serving tables with the ease of someone who had finally found their rhythm in life. That's when she saw him. At a corner table, he was Ethan, the man she had mourned, the man whose betrayal had shattered her world. For a moment, she stood still. Her heart pounded in her ears, drowning out the restaurant's noise. Her eyes locked onto his, searching for some sign of recognition, some flicker of the love they once shared. Gathering her courage, Melissa approached the table, her voice a mere whisper. Ethan. The man she once knew looked up, his expression of polite confusion. "I'm sorry. Do you have me confused with someone else?" he asked, his voice devoid of any warmth she remembered. Melissa's heart sank. There he was, sitting with another woman, his arm casually draped over her chair, denying her existence, their past. "It's me, Melissa, your wife," she said, her voice trembling with hope and despair. Ethan's gaze turned cold, a calculated mask of indifference. "I think you're mistaken. I've never seen you before," he replied curtly, turning back to his companion as if dismissing a stranger. Melissa stood there, rooted to the spot, the pain of his betrayal slicing through her anew. How could he sit there, looking into her eyes, and deny everything they had? How could he erase their love, their history, with such ease? The realization hit her like a wave. This man, this stranger, was no longer the Ethan she loved. He was a mere shell of the man she had known, a stranger wearing a familiar face. With a heavy heart, Melissa walked away, Ethan's laughter echoing mockingly behind her. Her hands shook in the kitchen as she tried to regain her composure. The pain was raw, but it was different this time. She wasn't the broken-hearted widow anymore. She was a survivor who had rebuilt her life from ashes. As she lay in bed that night, Melissa allowed herself to mourn again, not for Ethan, but for the life she thought they would have. And when dawn broke, she rose with a newfound resolve. She had faced the ghost of her past, and she had endured. Melissa returned to Janet's Corner, not just as a waitress or a cook, but as a beacon of strength and resilience. She had been tested by the cruelest of life's trials and emerged intact and more robust.